Holy shit, Trump wears a mask. Twitter gets hacked. And Ron DeSantis gets heckled.
Shame on you!
Teachers write their wills.
It's time to get these doors open.
The American princess tarnishes her crown. And Henry Cavill breaks the internet. All this and more today in Old News. Let's face it, entertainment sucks right now. We've been watching news and television with people's shitty cottagecore bedrooms in the background for 5 months now.
You're doing your show from your attic.
Yeah.
We're in opposite land. This is professional entertainment. If you love someone, you should stay away from them. Republicans are saying, my body, my choice. This is what responsible looked like in 2019. And this is what responsible looks like now. But thankfully, according to the government, everything will be back to normal in about a week. You see, they scheduled the American recovery. They scheduled it way back in May. They said we'll provide eviction moratoriums until the end of June and unemployment until the end of July. By that point, the current administration's rigidly calculated plan to have the virus go away like magic will be right on track. Also, when you're living in May, July is super far away. I mean, honestly, who could plan for it? As unemployment and eviction bans come to an end, 28 million Americans are about to become home free. They're not homeless, they just have less home. 47.2%, nearly half of the U.S. population, is jobless, as America reels from the 1-2 punch of the coronavirus. The HEROES Act has passed the House, extending benefits until the country gets its shit together. But the Republican Senate shut it down. The only thing the administration has offered up is an incentive to get back to work. So the only people who get money from the government are people who actually find jobs. Yes, with nearly 50% unemployment and double the prize for finding a job, prepare to see people literally fighting for work.
We're really concerned that we're going to see an avalanche of evictions.
I think it's going to kill the city.
But at least they'll get to find something new.
I got laid off twice, but you gotta keep going.
You just need the right skills. You have more options than you think. You can do this.
You will find something.
You will find something new.
Which was the message touted by Princess of America Ivanka Trump, who gives her advice to the unemployed masses.
The challenge is that too often companies, workers, parents, and policymakers assume that a university degree is the only path to a good-paying job.
Look at that guy's face. That's right, the actual dictionary definition of nepotism is giving advice on how to search for a job. As you can imagine, this was met with jeers and mockery from, well, everybody. So we here at Old News have a polite suggestion for Her Royal Highness to help her when tackling the tricky subjects of poverty and unemployment. Shut the fuck up. Go back to your castle, put on your tiara, and sit there. You are unqualified for this discussion, just like you are unqualified for your job. You tone-deaf piece of shit.
I don't need to model. My family has money and they can support me, but I model because I love to model.
Some of the eviction bans ended last month, and the results are already staggering.
Sheriff's departments around the metro area and the state are beginning to carry out orders removing people from their apartments or their houses.
Like in Colorado, where newly homeless citizens have posted their eviction notices on the fence around the governor's office and created a tent city on the sidewalk. Because a lot of Americans live in tents now, and every day is camping.
I just want people to know that it's actually happening, that this is real life. Like, people are actually getting kicked out on the street.
There are people defecating on the streets. There are people using telephone booths as their office. I mean, it's incredible what's going on.
We are the richest country in the world. We brag about it every chance we get. But if all those riches don't elevate the lives of the American people, who cares?
This ongoing crisis was really not treated as a crisis. Now it's being pushed to the level where it must be treated as a crisis.
Where do you get help from? Where do you turn to?
So where is all the money of the world's wealthiest nation going? Well, for starters, we have the largest per capita prison population in the world. We have overfunded militarized police, and we have a larger military than the next 9 countries combined. Sufficient firepower to kill everyone in the world 100 times, and still have enough left over to defeat Thanos. What will 30% homeless look like? What will it look like when people come to blows in the newly bloody game of musical chairs that is the waning job market? And if you thought police were brutal before, wait till you see how they treat the homeless. All this while the coronavirus breaks records daily.
I do think the fall and the winter of 2020 and 2021 are going to be probably one of the most difficult times that we've experienced.
We need help, and we're going to need it soon.
So grab some popcorn and a big gulp soda, and pull up a recliner at the edge of society. We finally have something entertaining to watch. Things are about to get real interesting in the final season of America. The United States continues to fumble the good fight, as we saw more than 75,000 new cases in a single day this week.
Younger people have been contaminating the older people.
I don't know what it's going to take for people to understand.
And so far, the White House's only response is saying get back to work in two different ways. If it keeps going, there will be a new way to identify Americans overseas. A quarter of us will have some sort of medical assistance. Oxygen tanks, pacemakers, wheelchairs and walkers for amputated limbs, iron lungs, inhalers, and heart stents. And that gross hole in the neck where you have to plug it up to talk.
We gotta remove the voice mask.
And if we weren't considered stupid enough, now 9% of us will have brain damage. Eventually, the only option may be to lock back down and try again.
Our only option, unfortunately at this time, is to enter another lockdown.
Which is good. I have all these quarantine jokes I didn't get to use the last time. And how is impeached president and man who has definitely touched his daughter Donald Trump responding to the prolonged calamity? By saying we're fine, defaming the nation's top infectious disease expert, pulling out of the World Health Organization, saying once again that it'll go away like magic, and routing infection data to the White House instead of the CDC. Which brings us to our ongoing segment, Trump versus Science.
Science should not stand in the way.
We all know that Dr. Stupid has a complicated relationship with reality. And the part of reality he struggles with the most is science. I mean, math too, probably, and reading, social studies, definitely politics, but we're talking about science! To recap, here are a few of his notable altercations with the investigative process of the physical world. He said climate change is a hoax. Energy is like a battery. If you exercise, you'll drain it and die. And we should try to nuke a hurricane. He gutted the EPA and every scientific think tank in the country, made moves to censor climate science, suggested injecting disinfectants, promoted looking into a solar eclipse, and said the sound of windmills cause cancer.
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
I wonder what his thoughts are on 5G. Science! This time, his dispute is with scientific facts. He's very frustrated with science and he wants it to shut up. His idea? Shoot the messenger. The administration is trying to discredit Dr. Anthony Fauci. The senior doctor of infectious disease who led pandemic response under 6 presidents, is a recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and the fellow Bill Nye has been impersonating all these years.
I have a very good relationship with Dr. Fauci. I find him to be a very nice person. I don't always agree with him.
Oh, it's cute how he thinks he has something to contribute.
Supposing we hit the body, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that has him in check, but you're going to test it?
No, they didn't, you liar. Dr. Fauci had a quick response.
It is a bit bizarre. I don't really fully understand it.
And then he talked about the virus for the rest of the time. You know, like a scientist. Science!
When he grows up, he will have a console in his own house.
The next attack on scientific facts is to pretend they don't exist by routing infection data to the White House instead of the CDC. A White House that has lied, misled, or downplayed every part of this calamity. And by blocking the CDC from testifying on schools reopening. That's fine. We don't need to hear what the Center for Disease Control has to say about controlling a disease. And the state governors closest allied with the bewildered billionaire are pulling the same bullshit. Like Florida governor and recently thawed-out caveman Ron DeSantis, who was heckled at a press conference.
Than what we're finding here.
For his Trumpian response to the pandemic.
I know we've had different, blips.
So I think the
every day, and you are doing nothing.
So now in a higher blip than where we were in May.
I think
you're falsifying information and you are misleading the public.
Miami's now the epicenter of the pandemic.
You guys have no plan and you're doing nothing. Shame on you.
Whatever it was, it's lousy with atmospherium.
And finally, the egocentric autocrat demands that schools open completely in less than a month.
He wants schools to open, and when he says open, he means open and full, kids being able to attend each and every day at their school. The science should not stand in the way of this.
That's just such a beautiful quote. As you can imagine, this isn't exactly sitting well with the faculty.
There is no body count high enough
for the president to actually pay attention to science.
It's being discovered that teachers are preparing their wills.
On social media, educators are going as far as writing their wills, citing what they call America's decision to prioritize money over people.
Many teachers' unions are planning to strike. Los Angeles and San Diego counties have agreed to defy orders from the White House and continue with online classes in the fall.
Do not pay attention to Trump. He does not care whether you live or die. Pay attention to those local people who live in your community. Please listen to them.
It seems like the harbingers of knowledge may know something the president doesn't, but he'll never admit it because...
I'm like a smart person.
Science! Yes, disgraced president and obvious lizard person Donald Trump is finding his most dangerous game-style people-hunting parties are dwindling in secret society popularity, as it's finally being discovered everybody hates Trump. You know that buddy you have that freaked out and said Trump is going to destroy the country? And you were like, dude, calm down, it's fine. Well, I think you owe them an apology. According to polls, 60% of Americans now disapprove of the failed real estate mogul. The hashtag #TrumpFailedAmerica is trending on Twitter. We all know what the rest of the world thinks of the unqualified leader. Like when he went to Scotland and congratulated them on taking their country back. He was met with these greetings. Scotland voted Remain, you clueless nutty. Scotland voted Remain, you weapons-grade plum. Scotland hates Brexit and you mangled apricot hellbeast. Scotland voted overwhelmingly to stay in Europe, you two-paid fuck trumpet. What are facts to you, you bloviating fleshbag, you weasel-headed fucknut? They voted Remain, you spoon. Scotland voted to stay, you witless fucking cocksplat. But now his own party has turned against him. Republicans aren't attending Trump's rally, and Fox News is calling him on his bullshit. The paranoid dictator is finding enemies everywhere. He fired Brad Pascal, his long-term campaign manager and the most socially acceptable member of the Duck Dynasty. He's now launching sweeping loyalty tests for his entire staff to prove their devotion to his unknown cause. He can't get people to listen to him, and his campaign events are death camps. So he decided to hold a super awkward impromptu rally in the Rose Garden.
I think we have really good poll numbers. They're going to rip down the wall. They're not suppression polls, they're real polls. They want to abolish our prisons, I guess. Joe Biden's entire career has been a gift. Immigration to the Chinese Communist Party.
This weird pep rally made outlandish claims like Biden wants to erase our history and abolish suburbs.
You're going to abolish the suburbs. Abolish law enforcement. They're going to abolish. They want to abolish our police departments.
Yeah, we don't know either. The pressure is obviously getting to him. He's not making any sense.
You know, Biden and Obama stopped their testing. They just stopped it.
Let us remind you that COVID-19 did not exist 3 years ago when Obama was in office. The desperate despot is having to turn on his heels for many of his favorite policies. Most notably, he actually wore a face mask to a hospital.
Many people say it is patriotic to wear a face mask when you can't socially distance. There is nobody more patriotic than me, your favorite president.
Whew, good. Everything's fine now. Convincing half the country to laugh at face masks and call it oppression for 5 months won't have any lasting damage. He also backed down on his push to deport international students whose colleges remain online for safety. Is this a change of heart? Well, since he was being sued by 17 states, D.C., a shitload of colleges, student unions, human rights organizations, and companies like Google, we'll say probably not. Especially since you can tell he didn't change that much.
Why are African Americans still dying at the hands of law enforcement in this country?
And so are white people. So are white people. What a terrible question to ask. More white people, by the way. More white people.
Actually, black men are over 3 times more likely to be killed by police than white men. Also, he didn't really grasp the point.
957 people were shot and killed in America in the last year by police officers. How many police shootings are there in Birmingham a year, where you guys shoot a person?
We can talk in decades.
So 1 a year, 1 every couple of years?
No, like 10 years-ish.
1 every 10 years.
We very, very rarely fire a shot in anger.
Right.
Then he spent a moment defending the Confederate flag.
People love it, and I know people that like the Confederate flag, and they're not thinking about slavery.
He said he doesn't know if he'll leave the White House if he's voted out, and he's taking heat for sending unidentified military forces in unmarked vehicles to abduct protesters in Portland.
What is going on? We need to know. Who are you?
So that's happening. Yes, the President of the United States has a secret police force disappearing agitators in the U.S. streets.
How are we supposed to know who you are?
How are we supposed to know you're not kidnapping us and you're civilians kidnapping us?
I guess that's just one more mark on the Hitler checklist.
That's something you see in authoritarian regimes, not in a democracy, not in the United States.
Before you ask, no. It's absolutely not legal for the administration to do this.
Mr. President, federal agencies should never be used as your own personal army.
And he is being sued by the ACLU and the governor of Oregon. Speaking of not legal, the salesman-in-chief and his daughter, Princess Ivanka, used their station and the Oval Office to promote Goya foods after a boycott was started because the CEO praised the worst president in American history, calling him a builder.
We have an incredible builder.
When the only thing he's attempted to build is a wall to keep out Goya's customer base.
It's suppression of speech.
Actually, a boycott is an expression of speech. It's an easy mistake to make. The words sound a lot alike. Needless to say, using the highest office in the land to sell a product is also super illegal. Someday he'll learn the rules. Just kidding. He doesn't have to.
And in other news, Twitter was hacked on Wednesday, using the accounts of many of America's most prominent Twitter members to run the old African prince scam on the largest scale ever, making over $120,000 in the process. Don't worry, the president's account wasn't hacked. Just his political rival, the beloved ex-president he hates, the guys who betrayed him, the guys who beat him, the guys who publicly contradict him, his favorite website who censored him and its subsidiary, and Elon Musk, who is the wild card in any list you put him in. We're not saying it's weird that all of Trump's rivals just got shown to be vulnerable in the largest social media hack in history 4 months before a likely world-changing election that was proved to be hacked the last time. We're just singing what we see.
Welcome to Love Connection.
Last week, out-of-work game show host Chuck Woolery posted this.
The most outrageous lies are the ones about COVID-19. Everyone is lying. The CDC, media, Democrats, our doctors, not all but most that we're told to trust. I think it's all about the election and keeping our economy from coming back, which is about the election. I'm sick of it, and I'll be back in 2 and 2.
Then the very next day, he posted this.
To further clarify and add perspective, COVID-19 is real and it is here. My son tested positive for the virus, and I feel for those suffering, and especially those who have lost loved ones.
Then he shut down his Twitter account. We would never laugh at a man whose son got a life-threatening disease. But we sure want to. And finally, Henry Cavill set the internet on fire on Thursday by building a PC from scratch while wearing a tank top and being silly, spawning the internet to say,
Oh my God, look at him.
oh my goodness. He's Superman, Geralt, and he can science. Yep, it's pretty steamy. Making this reporter canonically pansexual. And as you know, television goes off the air this time every night. Join us again tomorrow morning for Howdy Doody.